Hey everybody, welcome to another World of Tanks replay. This one is not by me, this is by Kuxai, I'm assuming I pronounced that wrong, who plays on the Southeast Asia server. And this is going to be an awesome demonstration of just how good a well-driven 4202 can be. Hidden Village, not exactly the best map for any tank, but there are ways you can make it work, and there are certainly ways you can make it work if you have 10 degrees of gun depression, which the 4202 of course does have. Interestingly enough, Matchmaker spat out an enemy team without too many heavy tanks on it. In fact, it's mostly mediums. And so Kuxai makes the decision to head up north. South. For some reason I always associate the high ground on this map with north. Anyway, he heads to the high ground. Normally I would take my mediums out towards a town, but normally you have more heavies than this, and in fact with so few heavies, going to town would probably be a bad idea, because that's where most of the enemy mediums will likely end up. And I think... no, it is running at full speed. Never mind. I'm so used to playing the Winter Wonderland mode that everything looks like it's moving in slow motion in a normal match now. Anyway, Kuxai sets up with a hold down position behind some rocks, just waiting to pop the first thing to come around that corner, which the 4202 is very good for, with an accurate, relatively fast firing gun that will pen pretty much anything it sees. And of course he has his platoon mate in the bat chat ready to support him. This has actually worked out pretty well. Two enemy heavies, both tier 8s, have been caught coming up to this corner and aren't going to want to push it now, because they know that they're facing tier 10 mediums and a Foch. Meanwhile, the enemy team has in fact gone very heavily to A9 and B9, which is exactly what I thought would happen. If you have that many mediums on an enemy team, that position is going to be just swarming with them, so it's best to avoid it. So sees an opportunity here. While his platoon mate rolls in to support him, he runs around the back of these two and gets a shot into the liver, while his team collapsing around the two heavies and finish them off. Of course, now his team have won the south, but the north is completely gone, and the vast majority of the enemy team are pushing through there towards their cap. If you let that many tanks get to your cap, you're going to have a very bad day, because while the cap speed does top out with 3 tanks on it, if you have a whole team on it, you're going to basically be resetting as fast as you can just to try and keep the cap timer down, and also they'll be trying to shield the guys who have all the cap points. So the less tanks that you allow onto your cap, the better. And in this case, the enemy team have to cross a very wide open area through water as well to get to the cap. So Kuxai has perfect opportunities here to get some nice hull down snipes into the sides of these tanks. 4202 might not be as bouncy as most people would like it to be for a tier 10 medium, but when it's used well in a good hold down position, it will bounce things, particularly snapshots from Type 61s. For those of you wondering why Kuxai has some sort of bizarro camouflage on his 4202 that you may not be able to get, it's, I think, one of the Clan Wars campaign rewards was this camouflage pattern. It can be applied to vehicles of any nation.
Enemy hit.
I don't have it either, so don't worry. You can join me in the Jealous People Club.
Enemy armor is damaged.
Now, as the enemy teams start heading back to their own cap to try and reset Kuxai's teammates, he now has even better shots at them. He can basically just sit in this position shooting them for days, and I don't know why those guys would run along the waterfront like that. If you're going to run back to your base, take a wide route through the city if you have time, because otherwise you're going to get sniped. It's just going to happen, and you don't want to be giving away free hit points. Kuxai's already up to just over 3,000 damage. You know, that's an acceptable game in tier 10 medium. In fact, that's about what I get most of the time in my tier 10s, except for when I completely fuck up and only get 1 or 2k. Or sorry, when I only get 1k fucking up. It's early, so my commentary is not going to be particularly insightful at this hour of morning. I'm very sorry. Shot goes into the E50M, but I'm not sure if it penned or not. And it... uh-oh, it's a 183. However, it's not looking, so Kuxai snaps a quick shot into it before backing behind the wreck of the friendly Panther. Panther 2, in fact. He now decides to loop back towards his own base because his teammates who are on cap have had their shit pushed in, and now the enemy mediums are coming straight through the South Pass. And this is what happens when you let your team get too spread out. There were still tank destroyers in the back, and a bunch of people sitting out on cap. On this map, you don't want to be sitting on cap unless you have people supporting you, because you're going to get picked off from the town or from the hillside. Cap really is a last resort option on the vast majority of maps, and so you know, it's not something you do when you have an advantage you could actually leverage.
Enemy is hit.
You're just throwing the game. Kuxai's platoon mate has, of course, gone down quite some time ago, so he's now left on his own with the support of only a handful of puppies and tank destroyers. But he is in a 4202, and for all its failings, the 4202 has a superb gun and pretty decent ability, even if it's not technically fast. On top of that, the 10 degrees of gun depression is enormously useful on a map like this. Even if your turret won't necessarily bounce things too well, having a lot of gun depression just allows you a lot more flexibility. It allows you to pop over hillsides and fire before people can get a decent shot back at you. It also allows you to fire on the move with a much greater degree of success, because your gun won't be bouncing up and down every time you hit a piece of rubble or whatever on the ground. Nice ammo rack on that 140. And now Kuxai is just holding out, waiting for the enemy to come to him. He's got a good position here. He can cover both sides of the map from it. And he's got a Waffenträger watching his back. The Waffenträger is actually slated to be removed, thank God, but I'm not sure when exactly that will be happening. Not soon enough, put it that way. I'm sure the people who paid hundreds of dollars to free XP to it the day it was released are going to be real impressed. The Waffenträger does go down, but Kuxai is able to take out the E50M in exchange. And now he is left facing 4 tanks, the most threatening of those being the FV215B183, which can quite easily one-shot him unless it very badly fucks its shot up or fires AP. The IS-8 has a pretty threatening gun, but against an FV4202 its armor isn't very effective, even the turret's a little squishy, and it's not being driven by the best player in the world, put it that way. So Kuxai can quite easily clown this guy around the hillside. The IS-8 does not have very good gun depression, the 4202 does. What's more, the IS-8 is quite a large target, quite squishy hull armor to a 4202. You know, there's a lot of things that are squishy to a 268 pen gun. Kuxai loses his driver again. He's already medkitted him once, so he's now stuck with somewhat questionable mobility. But at this point, he's already in the spot he needs to be, and he doesn't really need speed to get away from the remaining tanks. So it's not too big of a concern. Sorry about steam in the background there. He sets up for a shot on the corner and manages to get a snapshot into the T-44 as it whizzes past. Apparently not quite sure what it's doing as it waves its gun in every single direction possible. The 183 starts pushing. Kuxai gets a quick shot into it and backs off. I get the impression that was probably meant to be a track shot, but it looks like it just missed the idler wheel. The IS-8 has the right idea here, pushing with his teammate, but the wrong execution. He's pushing behind the 183, which snapshots and misses. Don't snapshot in the 183, because that happens. He just got his IS-8 teammate killed, and he's about to get himself killed. Do not snapshot in something with accuracy that bad in a 30-second reload. It's just not a good idea. He could have easily tanked a hit or two while he aimed that shot, and then Kuxai would have been done for. He almost certainly wouldn't have survived, and even if he had the T-44, he would have been able to finish him with that shot. But as it is, he has enough hit points left to kill both the IS-8 and the 215, and now to deal with the T-44 if it threatens him again. Remembering that the 105mm gun on the 4202 will average roll 390 damage, and the T-44 now has 402 hit points. He is well within the likely one-shot range for this gun. The max roll for this gun is 488 damage, so there's no way, unless Kuxai average rolls or low rolls, that that 44 will survive. He certainly won't survive 2 shots. Kuxai spends a minute trying to figure out what to do, and then decides his best option is to just go for the enemy cap. Just over 3.5 minutes left on the clock. Try and get this to run a little smoother. I'm not sure if you guys actually care or not about the replay stuttering like that, but it just drives me insane, so you'll have to forgive my constant stopping and starting trying to unfuck it. Kuxai is just looking for the 44 here, but again, time is short, so I think this is a point where he just decides, fuck it, gonna go for cap. Sure enough, he turns back towards it and makes best speed. Best speed with a 4202 is not exactly fast, only 40 kilometers an hour, but it does reach that top speed very fast, even with a dead driver. The problem is he's now running very short on time, and he's still quite a distance from the enemy cap, and he still has a Rheinmetall Borsig somewhere in the city, which almost certainly will knock him down in 2 shots, possibly could one-shot him if it high rolls with the 128 or if it's carrying the 150. T-44 will take at least 2 shots to kill him, but it's unlikely it will be able to do so since he has enough damage on his gun to almost one-shot it. He stays a little to the left as he heads into the cap, trying to avoid driving into the Roomba's spotting range. And then nestles up in the cap next to the 4202. Now, if he'd actually just cut across the cap, maybe 6 inches to the right, and started the cap earlier, because he skirted around it, you have to have more than half of your tank inside the cap for it to start, I think, or it might be based on the central pivot point of the model, but it's something to that effect. You have to have about half of your tank in the cap for it to start, and of course he just had 1 track in the cap. Now if he'd been a little more to the right, it's very likely he would have won this game on cap, because as you'll see shortly, he only missed it by a couple of seconds, really. At this point, he's waiting for the 44, expecting it to come bucketing over the hill for a reset any second now. A quick look at the damage meter, 9.7k. And there we go, somebody's on his cap. No real way of telling which tank it is at the moment, so he's still keeping an eye out. 20 seconds left on the clock, 20 seconds left to cap. If he had been just that little bit more in the cap zone, this would have been a win. Probably. Because here comes the T-44 for the reset. He survives on 1 hit point, and at the last second gets a 32 damage HE resetting. A very, very, very close game. 10.1k damage in a 4202. What a match. Like, this is the kind of stuff I dream about getting in my 4202. Ever since it was buffed slightly, it has a better rate of fire than it used to. It makes it a lot more flexible, makes it a lot better tank. It still has issues with armor, namely it doesn't have any. But, you know, I think it cops a lot of hate that it really doesn't deserve. It's a pretty solid medium tank. You just have to be playing it like a medium tank and not a heavy, which is where most people go wrong. That reset, though, I mean, I think, honestly, if Kuxai had started the cap just even a couple seconds early, he probably would have got away with that. But, as the saying goes, hindsight's perfect, and sometimes in these matches, you just don't have the time to stop and theorize about what would happen if you got in cap now, as opposed to 3 seconds from now. It doesn't cross your mind, because you've got so much other stuff running through it. But either way, that was a hell of a game. When I saw the replay posted up, I just couldn't scroll past it without recording it and uploading it. So, hope you all enjoyed the video. I wish you the best of luck in the field, and I'll see you on the next one.